Welcome to the Freedom or Bust podcast with Joeel and Natalie Rivera. You are here because you will accept nothing less than the freedom to determine your destiny, do what you love, and fulfill your life's purpose. We believe that self-employment is the ultimate form of empowerment, and our mission is to bring you guests whose powerful entrepreneurship stories and real-world advice will give you the inspiration and tools to create a business and life that you love. Today's guest is Chris Haroun. Chris is a successful venture capitalist and an award-winning MBA professor who has reinvented himself at every level, including leaving behind his successful career in investing to embrace a new frontier, online education. With a career that spans Goldman Sachs, Citadel, and Accenture, as well as his own startups, he has worked with investment and business leaders such as Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Marc Benioff, and the CEOs of many of the largest technology companies. Today, Chris is a full-time online instructor, but not through traditional university education, through 45 of his own online courses. An MBA graduate from Columbia University himself, he is now famous for his top-selling business program, an Entire MBA in one course, which takes students beyond the theoretical and practical frameworks taught in business schools by teaching crucial lessons and practical applications to real-world problems. He has shared his powerful, practical, and revolutionary business and life wisdom with more than 500,000 students around the world, and his courses have been profiled in Business Insider, NBC, Inc., Forbes, CNN, Entrepreneur, and on many other business news websites. In addition to creating online courses, Chris spends his time advocating for the democratization of education, investing in edtech, and contributing to educational charities. He believes that all problems in the world can be solved through education. Check out his recent TEDx talk on the topic.
So welcome, Chris. We're really excited to have you with us. We know you have so much knowledge that you can share with our audience and so much insights, and that anyone listening to this podcast is truly going to be inspired and be ready to follow their dreams and really understand that anything's possible. So
that's great. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And so let's jump right in. So as everybody knows after listening to your introduction, you come from a very eclectic background, both in business and in investing and a bunch of other things. You've worked with top firms, but you also work with, individuals who are on an entrepreneurship journey. And so the question that we have to start with is, what is it that got you convinced that you wanted to go independent? So what was your first entrepreneurial venture where you were completely on your own, not working for somebody else?
Yeah, so I've started a lot of companies throughout my life, and I failed a lot. I've been successful a couple of times as well. But when I was a kid, I used to rent video games to other people at school. It was a ColecoVision. I'm dating myself there. It was many, many years ago. And then I got my first student venture capital loan from the Canadian government when I was 18 years old. And it was a $3,000 loan, and it was for my lawn care company. And I had to pay it back. It was interest-free 6 months later. And then what happened was, and I've always been a risk taker, which has helped but hurt as well. What I did was I took the $3,000 at the end of the summer. I was supposed to pay it back to the Canadian government. And I invested it all in my first venture capital startup idea, which was, it was a company called Spectral Diagnostics in Canada. It ended up working out fine, whatever, but my credit rating got shot in Canada as a result. So it's a double-edged sword. And so I came down to the States to kind of follow my passion, which was I love technology, but I also love finance. And so I went to business school in the States. And I worked on Wall Street at Goldman Sachs for a number of years. And the people were great there, but I was depressed. And every Christmas bonus season, everybody was incredibly unhappy. And what happened was this, and I read this book by the Dalai Lama called The Art of Happiness, which really kind of put it into perspective. He said, the problem with Western society, and this was the problem I had too, the problem with Western society is we sacrifice our health, our entire lives in order to chase money. And then at the end of our lives, we sacrifice all of our money to maintain our health. And then we look back and we realize we never really, lived to begin with. And so you'd think I would have learned at that point. I didn't. I was in New York and I wanted more money. And so a big hedge fund called Citadel recruited me to the West Coast and relocated my family and I. And I thought I'd be happier because, compensation was better, whatever. But I was even more depressed. I was more depressed because I think that if you chase money, you lose your dreams and maybe your money. But if you chase your dreams, if you're okay with failing a couple of times, and I hope everybody on this call is, if you chase your dreams, not only do they become true after a while, but the money comes accidentally. And the worst thing you can do is spend the rest of your life working for somebody else, because you'll wake up one day and you'll realize, oh my goodness, I'm working for this jerk who's paying me this much money to make his or her dreams become a reality. And I just wasn't happy. And I realized a little bit later in my life, unfortunately, that chasing money is never going to make you happy. And so I just wanted to help people. And while I worked in venture capital here in the Bay Area, during the evenings, I would teach a lot. And it was so fulfilling for me to help, especially students that came from a very humble background, just helping them. It made me feel much better than doing anything else. And so I woke up one day and I said, enough of this. Enough is enough. And it wasn't about the money. It was about doing something I'm passionate about, which is teaching, giving back, helping other people reach their full potential. And the last thing I'll say is that don't ever expect to realize your dreams in life unless you help others accomplish theirs first.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. And that's why I feel like we connect so much, because of our vision. And it's funny because I didn't know that you started a business at such a young age. And actually it's funny for me, I was selling like candy bars at school, in middle school already, trying to figure out how to make some money on the side and do some of those things. And as we developed, we both understood the same thing. By the way, The Art of Happiness is a great book. So anybody listening out there, we highly recommend it. And we understood a lot of the same things, that money wasn't the be all end all, but we found ourselves with 5 different businesses as well, working like 70 hours a week until I got sick. And then it really made me realize, wow, what am I doing? Am I living life? Is this really what I want for my journey? It's like the biggest wake up call. So I think that it's such an important point that you're making to everyone going out there, because really, if you follow your purpose and your vision and focus on contribution, the money does follow. That's one of the things that we've learned. So.
Yeah, and it's like, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it's going to, it always sounds like, oh yeah, follow your passion and the money follows. And it's like, yeah, right. That's what people tend to assume, is that it doesn't really work. And of course it's not going to work if you don't work. You have to put the work in. You can't just sit on a stump and pray and meditate and dream about what you want and expect it to fall in your lap. You have to put the work in. But if you do what feeds you versus trying to basically sell your soul just to make an extra buck, it doesn't work. You've got to focus on what your passion is. And I love that the first thing that drew you out of that world that wasn't really you was teaching, because that's also the same passion we have. We've always been teachers. I always avoided the traditional teaching because I didn't like the traditional academic setting, but that was Joel's transition out of traditional employment too, is becoming a psychology instructor.
Right. I'm with you. I love teaching. I feel like when one teaches, two learn. And so my students inspire me all the time, and I'm constantly learning. And, I remember when I worked for other people, I hated bureaucracies. I hated working for other people and realizing that it's not a meritocracy. You don't eat what you kill. I hated the fact that I had to play politics. It just wasn't me. I felt suffocated to the extent that I couldn't breathe. Like I couldn't be myself. I work in a big company and I get into an elevator and a senior executive was there, and I kind of think to myself, what do I say that's smart? And after they left, I would think, was that smart what I said? And then I realized I was just really insecure. And when I was younger, I used to laugh so hard until it hurt. And then when I started working for other people, I realized I wasn't laughing anymore. I wasn't being me. I wasn't being myself. And I think the only way that you can really be yourself and live your life in your own terms is to start your own company and realize that, failure is not shameful. It's very cool, at least here on the West Coast. And if you spend the rest of your life caring what other people think of you, you'll always be their prisoner. And I think that the best entrepreneurs in the world, the Bill Gates of the world, J.K. Rowling's, Steve Jobs, et cetera, and Marc Benioff here in San Francisco, they never gave a damn what people thought of them, ever. And that's one of the reasons they're so successful. Because if you spend all of your energy focused on what are other people thinking of you, you'll never have the time to be yourself and start your own company. And so I think that the whole self-realization of knowing that you are the smartest person in the world, that's what my mother said to me, I'm sure she's not biased, whatever, and then you believing it yourself that I can do anything, and I don't care if I fail over and over again. I don't care what people think about me. Always leads to great things. Always, always, always. And I encourage anybody listening or watching this podcast that hasn't failed in business, please try so hard over and over and over again, fail a lot, start a lot of side hustles. When I worked for other people, I had my own cell phone. Always have your own cell phone. Always have two, actually. One's work, one's your own. And if they made me work long hours in FaceTime, I would turn my Wi-Fi hotspot on and I would start companies from work. And I failed a million times, but eventually a couple of them succeeded. And so you got to be willing to fail over and over and over again. And the last thing I'll say is Michael Jordan said, I've failed over and over and over again, and that is why I succeed. Yeah. Failing is not shameful.
Well, and I love that because we preach that, fail, especially if you're starting something, fail fast and often. Yes. Because the best way to understand what works and what doesn't is understanding that there's going to be failures on the road. So you might as well get them out of the way as quickly as possible. So then you can be able to redirect yourself to where you really want to go. And I love the fact that you also shared your vulnerability when you were in that elevator. So it brings me to the question of how do you deal, or how have you learned how to deal with that failure? Because obviously we all have these little voice in the back of our head that, create doubt and then says, well, you failed big this time. And how do you overcome that and continue to move forward?
And actually, I'm going to add to that. It's not just failure. It's dealing with because part of the reason people don't want to fail is because what other people are going to think. Yeah. And so did you go through anything internally in your own life or mentally or emotionally that helped you get past that need for approval of other people and therefore the need to succeed all the time so that you could get over the fear of failure?
Yeah. So a couple things for me, and thank you for asking that question. So one thing I kind of realized is that, and I'm going to draw a chart here. It's not going to be perfect, but I'm going to do my best. Okay. So here's a chart. On the x-axis is your age, and on the y-axis is give a darn, right? And when you're really young, you're down here, right? Like my kids, they have meltdowns in restaurants. They don't care what people think. They don't have confidence problems. They don't give a damn. When you're really old or older like I am now, you don't care what people think of you. Like old people don't have confidence problems. When you're in between, like up here in your 20s, like when I was in university, I care what people thought. And I call this area here the triangle of despair. And you got to eliminate this triangle. And you got to live your life on this level like you're a kid, right? And you don't care what people think anymore. You have this incredible joie de vivre. And if you live on that level and you don't care what people think, you'll be incredibly successful. And for me, I finally got to that point where I was so insecure that I didn't want to give a presentation in front of lots of people. I was so scared, man. I'd rather literally die than give a presentation. And I figured, how am I going to conquer this fear? And so I started running to my fears. And I actually did it through the church. It wasn't a religious thing, but I would go into the prison system. And I always loved helping people. And I would go here in Redwood City in the McGuire Correctional Facility. And I'd always target these poor 20-year-old guys that had deadbeat fathers, right? And there's no such thing as a deadbeat mother, in my humble opinion. And I just helped them out. And I just kind of talked to them and counseled them, whatever. And then what happened was one Sunday, the priest didn't show up, and the priest conducts mass. And so the warden saw me and said, Chris Haroun. Actually, it's Haroun, my last name. and he said, Father Michael is not here this week. You're going to have to do the mass. I'm like, dude, I don't know how to do this. He's like, it's easy. Just read these pamphlets. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And so I got up there. And again, it's not a religious thing, what I'm saying. It's kind of self-realization. However, I got up there and I was reading. And what happens is with all major religions, you read something from a religious passage, and then the priest, rabbi, whatever, gets up and talks about it. And so the passage that day in the gospel was about faith. And so faith and confidence. And so I read it. And then after I finished reading it, I looked down, I was standing there, and there was 30 inmates in yellow jumpsuits like this. right? And some of them had tattoos that said F you, like literally, like right here. It was scary, like this. I was terrified, man. I was like, you know what? I got to conquer this fear right now. And so what I did was, it was supposed to be a speech the priest was supposed to give on confidence and faith. And I said something that kind of changed me. You know, I said, do you believe in God? And the immense went, yeah. And I said, does God believe in you? And then they all went, yeah. And then I said, well, if you don't believe in yourself, then you might have to question your faith. And then right then, a lot of them, their arms were not crossed anymore. They opened up. And I realized to myself that I'm never going to worry for the rest of my life what people think about me. You know, and whenever I worry, you know, day to day about anything small in my life, I think it's the wrong thing to do, because this is just my humble opinion. Why worry about anything if God already knows what's going to happen? You know, let God take the wheel, whatever religion people are from that are listening to or watching this podcast. Just don't worry. And you know what, dude? In hindsight, things happened to me in my life professionally that I thought were setbacks. But they weren't. They were transformational. And I'm so glad I had those setbacks early in my life. I'm so glad I was fired that one time by a big hedge fund where I made them a lot of money. I couldn't understand it. And I called my dad with teary eyes and I said, Dad, I don't get it. I made them money. I did everything right. And they let me go. I just don't get it. And he said, Chris, my son, he said, I want you to read the book of Job. That's J-O-B, which is somewhat prophetic. And it didn't make sense to me at the time. And then years and years later, today, it does make sense. I was sent down a different path. And so what might be thought of as a setback by a lot of people listening to this podcast or watching it can actually be transformational, because you're going to look back on potential career setbacks as being something that defined who you are and let you live your life on your terms. And one last quick thing here is that anybody that's ever been successful in business has failed more times than all of us combined. We just don't know about those setbacks. And without those setbacks, these people would not have been as successful as they are today.
Yeah, and I love that, because it is this illusion that we create around successful people, overnight successes, without recognizing that they had to have all these failures to really get to where they're at. And I also love your story about the prison and how it changed your life and how your perspective of finding purpose in pain, or in challenges. And I love the statement where, you know, my belief system is life is happening for you and not to you. Because even when I was sick, and I would say we, because she was my full-time caretaker, it was that reminder that this is happening for a reason. If it's happening, it's because we need a shift. And this is going to open up doors and opportunity for us to contribute and change the lives of other people in a way that we could have never imagined that it was possible because of this situation. Yeah. And just like when my brother passed away, the same thing. It was like, this is happening for a reason. What am I going to do with this pain? What am I going to do with this challenge in my life? And what is it teaching me to help me become a better person?
And actually, one of the things that we're passionate about now is helping people who are dealing with disruption in the economy or different industries. A lot of people are already having jobs displaced. There's going to be more of that coming. And so one of the things you were talking about before about really, you know, starting your own business is what gives you opportunity and choices in life. And so one of the things we always say is that entrepreneurship is the ultimate empowerment. And so specifically that finding those things that happen in our career, like if you really hate your job, or maybe you lost your job, or your industry is changing, or there's something that's pushing you and you're saying, why is this happening? It could be because it's pushing you to take back control of your life by starting a business, or at least starting a side hustle, like you say, you know, get some extra income coming in, so that you know, jerk boss that you're talking about doesn't have control over you anymore, because you have the means to be able to take back control of your life. And I think a lot of times when these negative things happen, it's because life is giving us a little kick in the butt to go and take a step we wouldn't have taken otherwise. Sometimes it takes getting rattled up to be able to be willing to change. And that I think that for a lot of people, one of the solutions when life is pushing on you is to take back control and create income for yourself through a business. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And, you know, there's that saying, when life gives you lemon, make lemonade. You know, and whenever you see a crisis, in my humble opinion, it's always an opportunity. Even on Wall Street, when I used to work there, when other people are selling, that's an opportunity for you. When there's blood in the streets, that's kind of a harsh term. But when everyone else is panicking, there's opportunity. Whenever there's a crisis in your professional life, that's always an opportunity. And to your point, with frustration comes unbelievable breakthrough. I always believe that if you get up in the morning and you tell yourself you're going to work, then with all due respect, and I say this with love of my heart, you're doing it wrong. You got to find your passion, your purpose. What was the reason you were put on this earth? And Mark Twain had that great quote. He said, the two most important days in your life are, number one, the day you're born, and number two, the day you find out why. And if you don't love what you're doing every single day, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And that's really, that's what it's so funny, because every time we talk to you, it's like there's so much synergy because our messages are the same. It's like as you're talking, I was like, yes, this is exactly what we're always trying to have come across. And then also, obviously, we both work in the same industry where we create online courses, we teach people all over the world. And so on that note, I would love to know kind of, how did you first discover online courses? And then obviously we know this is what you do full time now. So how did you discover the courses? And then what was that journey to realizing that this is what you wanted to dedicate your life to?
Right, sure. So I love that question. Before I answer that, I just want to say how much I enjoy being around both of you. You both radiate this positive energy. And I don't think that any entrepreneurs or people in the world that have been incredibly successful at transforming industry have done it with negative attitudes. They just use positivity like Sir Richard Branson, and you certainly both do as well. But for me, what the catalyst was that I would teach during the evenings, and I'd always help people out. And whenever I worked for other people, I always beat my quota, whatever, but they would always critique me in a nice way. They would say, Chris, why are you spending this much time helping other people? And I'd always help to mentor people on my team, and it gave me more fulfillment than getting money. It was just fun for me. It's just who I am. It's embedded within my DNA. And so there's this great charity I'm on the board of here in the Bay Area called the Limo Foundation. And the Limo Foundation is based in East Palo Alto, where the high school graduation rate's only 40%. And so what we do is we have these poor kids with deadbeat fathers, and we give them scholarships to the best schools in the Bay Area. And they're between the ages of 9 and 17. And so one day I set up this whole day where I was going to teach these kids in early January 2016 everything I know about business. That was a Saturday. And so what I did was, it was 12 hours, and I called that an entire MBA in one course. I just threw that out there, and I created degrees for them. You go to my website, I picture myself with all these wonderful kids. And there's this incredible sense of empowerment that day. And it was kind of like, we are empowering the empowerers to make their life better. And then the next day, which was Sunday morning, I woke up and I got a camera at home, and I put it in my bedroom. And my wife saw it, and she said, honey, this is not happening. I'm like, no, I'm recording a course, right? You're not going to edit that part, right? I'm just
kidding. No, we'll leave it.
I'm just kidding. No, not leave it. I'm joking. But, and I threw the camera up, and I let it run all day long. And I did it. It was an 8-hour course. I did it all day that day, called Entire MBA in one course. And then I put it online on Udemy. And then it just took the next day, whatever, Business Insider wrote an article, and it was doing well, whatever. And I kind of feel like, it wasn't about the money. It was about passion and giving back and teaching people based on real practical experience and not based on theory. That's the best way to learn. And that was my journey of getting on Udemy. And it's been transformational for me and very liberating as well, to be able to live my life on my terms. I think everybody has something to teach. Everybody does. And I think that everybody should teach on Udemy as well. And I understand that you guys help teachers do that as well.
Yes, absolutely. We also believe everybody has something to teach. And so one of the big things that we focus on is helping people know that we are in this new economy of education that's changing. And actually we share a lot of our passions in common with you. And one of the big ones is the democratization of education, which is what online courses is part of that. And so actually, if you wouldn't mind sharing, what is your perspective? Like, what do you see happening and changing, because an online course, when we talk about that, like what you and we create, it's not academic. It's not the traditional textbook course. It's more real world. It's a different thing, but it also serves a different purpose. So if you wouldn't mind kind of elaborating on the democratization of education and what you see happening and how the courses and what you do and what we do fits into that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the problems with education is that you learn a lot of theoretical stuff you can't apply in real life. And I look back upon my experiences in my 4-year undergraduate degree and what I learned or didn't learn. I don't know what that means, but anyway, I had a lot of fun. But it was 13 hours of class a week, and which is nothing. And for some reason, I couldn't go to my classes. I was very irresponsible when I was younger. But I graduated, although I took a 4-year business degree, not really knowing anything I could apply in the real world. I didn't know how to interview. I didn't know how to sell anything. I didn't know how to present. I mean, these are the most fundamental business and life skills. I didn't know, how to manage my own money. We're taught how to manage other people's money, but not our own. And then I went back to school and I got an MBA in the States, and it focused on finance, my MBA. And all of us, years later in my graduating class, we talked to each other and we're like, did you buy a house? Yeah, I bought a house. I bought an apartment recently. And then we all discovered we all had to do the same thing, which is we all had to call our mom and dad and ask, how does a mortgage work? You know what I mean? Like they don't teach you practical skills in school that they should. And so I think what's going to happen is that 4-year undergraduate degrees are going to be truncated to 2 years. Just think of all the student debt we all have or have had. It'll be 2 years. It'll be supplemented with online education. The curriculum at schools is decades old. Like I never really use these supply and demand graphs in economics or calculus. I'm sure engineers do. I just don't understand why I had to learn all that stuff I can't apply in the real world. And so I think what's going to happen is that this is such a beautiful time to be a teacher. And I love teachers because they don't do it for the money. They do it because they love what they do, right? They're the most beautiful people in the world. And so I realized recently after I started teaching that if you're a teacher, you have the most scalable business profession from a services perspective on the planet. If you're a doctor or God forbid a lawyer, unless you're a civil rights lawyer, then I love you, but you can only serve one patient at a time. If you're a teacher, you can write once, read many. You can put your courses online and have students in every country in the world like the three of us do, and have students buying our courses while we're sleeping. It is the most scalable profession in history, teaching. And it's scalable now only because of high-speed internet, low-cost computing, and that sort of thing. And I believe that what's going to happen is you'll have thousands of Malalas, so to speak, rising up in every country overseas. And they'll change society from within. We don't have to send troops overseas to fight wars we can't win or understand. Society can be changed from within. And you're starting to see that, the kind of the roots of change right now take place. And I think it's going to come through online teaching, not just on Udemy, but on all sorts of platforms globally. And I'm so excited about the future. I'm just very humbled to be a part of this as well.
Yeah, and I love what you're doing and what you bring to the table, because you are helping democratize education in such a large scale, because you have so many students from all over the world at this point. And really what I love about it is that I think that teachers are now getting the credit that they deserve. They're getting the opportunities that they deserve because they are the ones transforming lives in so many different aspects. And I agree with you 100% that really change and transformation comes from knowledge. So if you can provide that knowledge and education, for example, for me, realistically, I failed my first year of college. I had no direction. I was doing all the wrong things. And then when my brother passed away, I went back to school, a community college, and I had a psychology professor, and he gave me these insights. And I was like, wow, I can't change my mind. I can think differently. Maybe, I'm not as dumb as I thought. I started calling myself a genius in front of the mirror, saying, Joel, you're a genius. Joel, you're a genius. But I was like, but you just failed college. How can you be that smart? But I started to believe it after a while. So education has transformed my life. And I find working with parents, for example, I used to, I say jokingly, a professional kidnapper. I used to remove children from their homes from the state of Florida as an investigator for the state. And then I started developing programs for fathers in the community. And what I realized, and mothers too, that it wasn't that they wanted to be bad parents. They were just doing what their parents had taught them. And once I was able to provide them with a foundation that they had a different option, a different choice of what they could do, it really transformed the way that they view life and transformed the way that they would treat their children. I just want to say one more thing about education and where it's going, because I get so excited about this. I was reading a report that said by 2030, we can have 30 to 50% of jobs being displaced. It doesn't mean that they're going to go away, but that they're going to transform because of automation, robotics, AI, and things like that. But one of the areas that they were saying that was going to experience the most growth was education. Mm-hmm. And it was showing, especially in developing countries like India, China, and different parts of the world, where education and the amount of people looking for that and the income produced because of education was going to rise by 150, 160, 70%. When the United States, it was going to continue to increase as well as other industries are going down. So for educators, this is like the gold rush.
Yeah.
Where you get to make such a big impact from all over the world, but at the same time, you also get to have that value put back in you by people investing in you and what you've taken time to learn and share.
And futurists like Peter Diamandis is constantly talking about the fact that, it was a number of years ago now, but he called them the rising billions. And there's still billions that have yet to come online. But actually in the last few years, the reason why there's been this explosion that we've taken advantage of in this online course market is that there have been billions of people coming online, but there's still more to come in the next several years. There's going to be billions more people coming online. And the very first thing that they look for is education. And then the second thing they're going to look for is a way to teach, because they're going to have ideas that there's brilliant minds all over the world that don't have access to the internet yet. So imagine what's going to happen when they do. And for existing teachers, like I love that you pointed out, it's time to reward our teachers. Yes. Properly. And if the government won't do it with proper educational salaries, then we can be the ones that teach them how to make courses on their own outside of the education system. And, there's teachers out there that are making, you guys are both good examples. You used to teach at a college level. You're making more creating courses online and selling them to people around the world than you were as a professor or an instructor. So there's so much opportunity in education. So if anyone listening, if not only that you have, you're an entrepreneur, but if you also have anything that you could teach, your passion, your career experience, your life experience, maybe some traumatic experience, like a divorce that you went through and you thrived at the other side, you could teach other people how to do what you've done and they will pay you for it. It's just this amazing marketplace. And if you want to learn something, you're no longer pigeonholed into having to go to a degree and spending thousands and thousands of dollars and only have the option of being trained by a college professor. You can be trained by someone who specifically meets your needs. So it's like the whole entire marketplace has opened up and anyone anywhere can learn anything. And I absolutely love that.
And I do have one question. When did this become real to you as far as recognizing, wow, this is a legitimate industry that's growing and that seems to have long-term value?
Yeah. So for me, what happened was one of my students, when I was teaching during the evenings at one of the business schools here in the Bay Area, her name was Fulia Becker. And she called me one day, or she sent me a message over LinkedIn and said, do you have time for a mentoring meeting? And I said, of course. And I stopped by her office and I said, what is this place, Udemy? She goes, actually, it's Udemy. And so she worked at Udemy as a data analyst. And I was there and I was so excited by the business model because as a venture capitalist and having worked on Wall Street for years, investing in tech companies, I know that the best investments in tech history are platforms. If you own the road and you charge the cars, that's a great business model. Like Facebook is the quintessential social media platform. LinkedIn is the best HR platform, et cetera. And so I saw this company, Udemy, and I thought, oh my God, this is the best ed tech platform that's ever been created. And so I went back to my partners in my venture capital firm, and I was about to tell them, we have to invest in this company. We have to lead the next round. We got to do it. And I was so excited. That I actually said, screw it. I'm going to quit and I'm going to teach on Udemy full time. This is my call. This is what I'm going to do. I don't care if it doesn't work out because I love it. I love getting up every day and doing this. And so that, for me, the spark was my student, Fulia Becker. She's at eBay now, but she started out at Udemy. And That's what did it for me.
I love that.
That's amazing.
I love that clarity. It's just like in that moment, you're like, nope, this isn't it. I know where I'm going. It's time.
I was so excited because usually when I wake up in the morning and I get up way too early, if I look at the clock, when I work for other people, I'm like, oh, good, I can sleep a couple more hours. But now when I open up, it's 3 in the morning, it's like, F&A, I'm getting up, man. I'm going to get up and start teaching. It's just fun because as teachers, I feel like online, we have this blank palette and we can create and we can be creative about how we teach as well. It's just fun. I see it as kind of a form of art, kind of like musicians or actors or directors. You never see Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg say, oh, God, I have to go to work today. They love what they do. And I feel that we are all the same way. It's fun to be creative and just kind of, reinvent education humbly all together. And it's still the early days. Like I get a lot of calls from, venture capital firms or hedge funds, and they think I'm crazy. And that's a good thing. They want me to come back, but they think I'm crazy. That's a good thing because once people stop thinking that what we're doing is normal, once they start thinking it's normal, I should say, then it's too late. And we are all going to look back on this opportunity a decade from now and say, this was the golden age of content, to create content on YouTube or Udemy or other online platforms. And this is the only gold rush in history where it doesn't cost you a penny to make the product, meaning these online courses. Everyone's got a cell phone. And this is the only gold rush in history where you immediately have access to billions of customers for free. Right? It's just so obvious. And I love how you're all empowering, trying to get other people to teach online. And anybody that's listening to this and you hate your job, please, 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 confidentially on the side, start a course. Start a course online. I promise you it works. And I have to share one more quick story. I'm so sorry that I'm so passionate about this.
No, I love it.
There's this one lady that, and I used to have my own column in Inc. magazine on the side, just writing for fun. And there's this lady, and poor thing, she was in an abusive marriage. Her husband beat her. And she had many kids, and they were on welfare. And she got the strength to wake up one day and say, screw it, right? I'm leaving him. I'm leaving that jerk. And she left and took her kids with her, living off of food stamps. And she's like, what am I going to do with my life? And she thought, well, what do I love doing? What am I passionate about? And she thought, well, I love baking bread. And her name is Teresa Greenway. And she teaches full-time on Udemy baking bread. And she makes a fortune off of doing this as well. How prophetic is that? She bakes bread for a living. Anybody can do it. Anybody can teach online. Everybody has multiple things you're passionate about that you can share with the entire world. 2 more quick examples. I'm so sorry. It's so hard for me to stop. But
hey, go for it. Go for it.
Preach it.
Like my kids, my children, I have 3 boys, young kids, and they don't watch TV like my generation did. They watch YouTubers who are all positive people, by the way. That's why the younger generation is very positive instead of watching 60 Minutes and scary CNN breaking news. But they watch these people that make a living off of doing things like cutting tables or things in half. They make $1 million off of doing that. These people that cut things in half. It's a father and son combo. There's another kid who's like 8 years old who gets paid $11 million a year to check out toys. And so my kids, and they inspire me, just like my students inspire me, but the younger generation, they were not only born digital, but they're getting this amazing mini MBA in marketing by watching all these vlogs. And they're all going to grow up and be independent and not want to have to work for other people, because what happened in 2008, the whole younger generation is screw it. I don't know what a pension means. I'm going to be independent. I'm going to start my own company. I'm going to create content online and make a living out of it. So anyway, I'm excited to be part of this.
And I love all of that. It's funny because we always give the example about baking bread, because a lot of people think in order to be successful teaching something online, you have to be doing something something in the tech field. You have to be teaching something that has a high dollar value where somebody can learn the skill and turn around and, make money off of it. But that's absolutely not true. It works for anything. And it's funny because I said we share a lot of the same passions. And obviously one of them is that we're all really passionate about pushing people to fulfill their purpose and follow their passion. And that we happen to be biased to think that teaching online is a really good way to do that, because like we've said before, it doesn't matter what the topic is, you can make money online. And it's actually, this is, like you said, this is a new industry, and it's basically still in its infancy. There's so much opportunity, but it's still a baby. And the analogy we like to use is that it's like the new real estate, because courses create passive income, just like buying a portfolio of real estate that's rental. And right now is the land grab to be buying the good real estate. So if you are an expert on the topic and you put out a course now, then you start to get the social proof now. So 5 years from now, when everyone else in your industry figures out that courses are the thing to do, you're the one who's got the big, massive hotel that's right on the best block in the city. And so this is the time, and like you said, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's surprisingly easy to do. The technology is here to support people. And so everything is pointing to yes, 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 you should be teaching something to someone.
The land grab. I agree.
Yep.
100%.
When I want to make 3 points to some of the things that you're saying, as far as like the land grab for us is some of our courses that we launched 3 years ago. When we first started, we were using a point and shoot camera, and we were using the little like headphones for the phone. You know, we had lost everything because I was sick. We sold all our furniture and everything and then I would edit it with the free software that comes with Windows. And that course makes more money today than it did back then.
Amazing.
And it sucks.
And it sucks. Like, we're embarrassed by it. We look at it and we start to update some of the things and stuff like that, but it has great ratings. People love it. It's very real.
Because the content's what matters. It doesn't it's like we were joking that, we're perfectionists, but the truth is that it doesn't have to be perfect, and you cannot wait till it's perfect. Your content, your personality, that's what's going to make you successful as an online educator, and at least decent graphics and good voice. Like, that's all you need. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Well, sometimes people won't remember, like I'm quoting Maya Angelou here, people might not remember what you said, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. So visual content sometimes doesn't matter. And that's why I think podcasting is such a big deal. The operating system of the future is virtual. You don't have to see, feel, or touch it. It's audible based. And a lot of people actually, a lot of Udemy students actually listen to courses while they're commuting at work. They actually don't watch it. And so anyway, so I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah. And I love one of the other things that you shared, that you said, I'm quitting. I'm doing this full time. Even if it doesn't work out, this is what I love. This is my passion. This is my purpose. And one of the things that ended up happening as I started getting better is I started studying Udemy and other online platforms and things like that. So I said, I don't care if I make any money off of this.
Yes.
I want to share my knowledge and legacy, because I don't know if in 6 months or 2 months or even a week, I'm going to start deteriorating again, because I would get better and then I would fall back worse than I was before. So I said, I just want to leave a legacy. I want to be able to share this content that I've acquired throughout my life. And it just kind of snowballed. Yeah. And for example, for us, Udemy was the biggest blessing. It's just putting it on there. They marketed, they did their thing, and it kind of continued to snowball. We saw that it was working, and we continue to do it. Another statement that you made that I just want to add something to it is, like, you're saying that the younger generation understands marketing because they're watching all these YouTube videos and they're learning. And I remember my son, when he was about 5 years old, we were driving down the road and we passed this van that had the world with the paint on it. I forgot the name of the company, but their logo is like a can of paint and dropping all the paint over the world. And he looks at me, he looks at the sign, and he says, Dad, that's terrible marketing. Why would you want to do business with a company that's polluting the world?
Love it. I love it. I love it. No, and my kids inspire me too. Like I watch, like anybody listening to this podcast has children, watch how they consume media. That's just an indication of where the market is going longer term. It is a land grab. Everyone's got to get online and start teaching today. And your first course may not be your most successful course. It wasn't with me, for example, but it doesn't matter. Just keep at it. Just keep at it, and just don't give a damn what anybody thinks of you or your courses. And just, I promise you, you'll be incredibly successful one day. If you're okay with failure, please fail a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's reaching a critical mass, whatever that means to you as a person, because as you put more content out there, you start getting more people. And at first you might only get a couple of people a week or a month or something like that. And then the more people you have, the more people start consuming your content. Next thing you know, you have 100 people signing up a month. Next thing you know, you have 1,000 people signing up a month. And next thing you know, you have 10,000 people signing up a month to follow you, whether it's on social media or it's buying your course or whatever it is. So it's understand that it snowballs.
Yeah.
And there's this exponential curve. That doesn't mean that just because you got 10 people this month that you're going to be 10, 10, 10, 10. You know, exponentially keeps growing as you get more social proof and as you get more people following and loving what you're doing.
Yeah, so it really is about consistency, continuing to make content, whether you're making courses or YouTube videos, whatever it is. It's the same formula. You have to continue to put stuff out there into the world, and it does grow. And then I just want to put a pin in it in case anyone didn't get it when I first said it. The online courses, once you create them, continue to pay you over and over and over again. So it's passive. It's sort of passive income. It's not completely passive because you have to, keep up with your students. You have to keep making content. But once you create it, it does continue to pay you long term. And so it's a completely different model. And I just want to make sure everyone gets that. If you've never heard of online courses before or thought of being an instructor, is that it's a completely different way of thinking. It's not just trading your time for money. It's creating something, and then that thing you created makes you money, just like investing, just like people on Wall Street, just like Chris used to do with hedge funds, just like people who invest in real estate. It's the same concept, except the difference is that what you're dealing with is your own knowledge, wisdom, heart, soul, experience. You get to make money off of that. And that's fantastic. And, if you don't want to do this, just do something as an entrepreneur. But as you can tell, we're a little bit biased that this is a great industry.
I love it. I love it. It's just fantastic. I feel the energy, the passion on this call. It's fantastic. I think that the way if anybody is listening to this call or watching this podcast and you want to be independent and you hate working for somebody else, and I'm going to swear that I never do this, but the worst thing you can do is spend the rest of your life realizing that you're someone else's bitch.
Yeah.
And I threw it out there like that. Sorry. But I did that because whoever's listening, and I know who you are, you probably feel the frustration right now that I used to feel. I want you to start teaching online. And I want you to decide what to do full-time by asking yourself this one vital question. That question is this. If I told you that you get a month off starting tomorrow and you can't work, you can't travel, you can't go to school, what are you going to do with your time? Whatever that answer is, what I want you to teach. That's what I want you to teach. And if you think that's crazy, there's this guy who used to teach on Udemy. He started his career out teaching on Udemy, and most people don't know this. It's going to blow you away. And he was teaching how to use Twitch, which, is like the online video game recording service. And eventually, he turned that into a big business, and his name is Ninja. And for all you Fortnite players out there, Ninja makes millions of dollars every year just streaming himself playing video games. What a fun life that is. What a fun life that is. So whatever your passion is, chase it and teach it.
Yeah. Well, and I could not agree more, and I think that there's so much opportunity, and it's for people to recognize that opportunity is there. And the only thing stopping them is just taking the first step. And obviously there is a learning curve and a learning process, but it isn't that complicated. It doesn't have to be rocket science. You don't have to have the best equipment. You don't have to have all the knowledge now. It's just slowly just moving forward in that dream and that vision. One of the things that I love about you and what you do is that you always look to add value to the life of those that you serve. So could you share for those people that are listening right now, what are some of the things that you do to add value? And actually we were talking about this before we started doing this, but as far as some of the Q&As and different things that you do to really add value to the life of other people.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. And so before I answer that, whenever I do something, if it feels like I'm doing it just to make money, then I suck at it. I'm awful at it. Like if I ever try to create a course just for money, it's going to be awful. No one should take it. You got to do something you're passionate about, kind of like musicians. They love what they do. They get up on the stage. They just love what they do, creating that content. And they don't care what people think of them when they're up on the stage. Same thing with athletes. They don't care what people think of them when they're out there. Otherwise, they'd be so insecure thinking of, oh my God, do I look good? Do I not look good? They wouldn't be successful at what they do, and they love what they do. So for me, I love doing what I do. And as a way to service my students, meaning the customer as much as possible, I think of them like a customer, right? Teachers never think of students like they're the customer. Imagine that. They're paying for that. They're the customers. So what I do to add as much value as possible is I hold these weekly YouTube live calls. It starts at 8 a.m. West Coast time, whatever, every Thursday. And the call never ends until I've answered all questions from my students. It's live. I have a lot of fun with it. I don't make any money off it. I don't care. It's just fun. And our longest call so far has been just over 6 hours. We're on week 29 now, and it's just fun. It's fun for me. And I don't get up at all. Like, I sit down and I talk for like 6 hours straight answering questions, and it's fun. And people say to me, how do you have the energy to do that? I'm like, dude, if you play a video game all day like Grand Theft Auto, you can go 6 hours straight, or you can code 6 hours straight. A lot of coders love what they do, right? They're passionate what they do. Most people in tech are. So I just love it, serving others. And this is the only profession, doesn't feel like a job, feels like a passion. But if we call it a profession, this is the only profession in history where you can get paid a fortune for helping people and enhance their lives. It's not about the money. It's about making the world a better place.
But the money is a bonus. We all need money to survive. So it's not that there's anything wrong with making a lot of money teaching courses, because, we know a lot of people that make what other people would say is ridiculous amounts of money teaching courses. But what's beautiful is everyone that we've met is highly successful. They all got into it for passion. Yes. So it really is that example of you do it for passion. You do it because it feels like, for us, it's like, this is what we were made for. We were put on this earth to help people fulfill their purpose. And we believe that one of the ways to do that is entrepreneurship. We believe it's the ultimate form of empowerment. And so everything we do is helping people find their purpose, create a business, make money in a way that doesn't make you be stuck in, a cell, AKA prison, in a regular job. Like, this is what we're meant to do. And we love it so much. And as you can tell, we're super passionate about it. And because we actually are willing to learn what we need to do in order to make it successful, we're successful.
Yes. You got to love what you do. Always.
Yeah. And one of the things that I see primarily is that it's just understanding that there will be challenges in the path, but you have to have that big enough reason why you want to do some of the things that you want to do. And in this new economy, and what we were talking about before, the economy shifting, employment shifting, is that it's what value am I bringing to people? And if you're able to bring value, you're able to create an income and be able to develop a business that thrives. Because in this social economy, that's what it comes down to. How do you stand out in a crowd? By adding value to the life of those that you serve.
And actually, I love, Peter Diamandis always talks about that. If you want to create $1 billion company, help 1 billion people. And so obviously most people's goal isn't 1 billion. So, if you want to have a $100,000 company, then help 100,000 people. It doesn't even have to be for a high dollar amount. It's so easy to reach people all over the world. So again, regardless of if you want to teach online, anything that you want to do can be monetized in today's economy. Absolutely anything. You do not have to get stuck doing something that you loathe with some idea that maybe one day you'll retire. Like, that old dream is not the American dream anymore. The American dream now is find a way to make money doing what you love. And so that's what we like to preach. And actually, I do want to know, Chris, obviously we know your heart's in this. And you have some big visions of what you're trying to do in the world. And so this is a 2-part question. The first is, what's the biggest difference that you want to make in your own life? So what are your own goals? And the second part is, what's the biggest difference that you want to make in the lives of the people that you serve? So what's your legacy?
So it's so interesting, because sometimes I think about it. When I teach, I feel like, and if you think about it this way too, this might help to prolong the content, meaning make more content. Think of it like you're teaching your kids when they're your age, right? So think of this as kind of being like a little time capsule, and your kids and your kids' kids, whatever, get to kind of learn from you. Learn from your mistakes, some of my minor successes, whatever it is. Just making their lives better because of it. And when I raise my kids, a lot of topic, I'm sorry, but I have to go there. I don't raise them to want to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer. I raise them to be, respectful to God, just the way I run my family, Christine and I, the way we run our family, and also just to be happy and confident. Imagine that. Imagine a teacher whose goal is to make their students confident instead of the opposite. And I remember when I was a kid, this is an interesting story about America, But when I was a kid growing up in Canada, I remember the cover of Time and Newsweek in the 80s, I'm dating myself here, was the downfall of the American child, the downfall of the American student. And every 10 years, people say the same thing. They say American students are 50th in the world in math, they're 50th in the world in sciences, whatever it might be. And I realized something when I started teaching here. I realized when I moved to the San Francisco Bay Area and I was teaching at university at night, American students, and I'm not signaling out people that are born in the States because half my students were born overseas, okay? American students are number one in the world in the most important economic category that nobody talks about, which is confidence. Mm-hmm. You know, confidence gives you the ability to sell something boring like cloud computing and make it exciting. You know, it gives you the ability to bounce back after failing many times. It gives you the ability to sell the dream, to sell anything, to be passionate about what you're doing and how you want to envision the world in the future. And so my career path, my vision is to help people live their lives on their own terms and to build up my students' confidence so they can be happy doing what they want to do in life instead of living their life for somebody else.
Yeah, that's a really great point. It's a really great point because it's living in a country that gives you opportunity and lets you know you have a choice that gives you the ability to really be confident, because that's something that is lacking in other parts of the world where it's kind of hard to feel confident if you don't actually believe that you can do it. And so we are really blessed to live in the time that we live and also in the part of the world that we live, and also that we are blessed enough to be able to share these philosophies with people from other parts of the world. Like you said, there can be Malalas popping up everywhere. So the ideas of opportunity and confidence can spread because we're teaching people that might not have ever been taught this philosophy, and here we are teaching it to them all over the world.
I love it. Let me say one more quick thing. I'm so sorry if I forget, but and when I made that comment about American students, you know, half of them are, again, born overseas. There's this problem in society that we care too much what people think about us. We're insecure, and that's why we live our lives on their terms, not our own. We are their prisoners in their mind and in our minds. And it has to do with regionalism as well. And this is kind of a sensitive issue, but I'm going to bring it up anyway because I'm fully transparent. You know, on the West Coast here in San Francisco, Bay Area where I live, it's cool to fail. Like if you start a company and you fail, hey man, it's cool, try again. You fail a couple, hey, it's cool, keep trying. On the East Coast, where I'm from, in Canada, and I hope this doesn't get anybody upset, as I am criticizing myself, I guess, my background, it's shameful to fail, but if you're successful later in life, people forget about the failure. Yeah. There's some countries and some parts of the world where, unfortunately, if you fail and later in life you're successful, all people remember is the failure. And the best way to break out of that rut and to live your life on your terms, if you're listening overseas or in a part of the world or the country where people really criticize you for failing and it's shameful, I want you to live your life on your own terms by saying these 3 words. Ready? And then you fill in the blank. You say, I don't care, then the blank. I don't care what people think about me. I don't care what people think of my job. I don't care what people think of the car I'm driving. I don't care what people think of what I think is fun and not. I don't care what you think of my clothes. I don't care. And I'm not telling you to be rude or disingenuous, but to live your own life on your terms and to truly be passionate, happy, getting up every day out of bed to do what you love doing, you have to not care what anybody else thinks. Because every successful entrepreneur in the world has failed so many times that we can't count them. J.K. Rowling, last example, beautiful writer from England. She's Harry Potter books, right? She failed 30 times. 30 editors turned her down. She was a single mother, God bless her, hated her job as an assistant. She failed 30 times. She didn't care that these other 29 publishing agencies didn't sign her up. She didn't care. And so for everybody on the call that's not living your life on your own terms, you got to start by saying, I don't care, and then fill in the blank.
No, I love it. And what's so powerful is that it does come down to that. It does come down to saying, I'm in the driver's seat of my life. I will stop giving people permission to step in the driver's seat and me be a passenger because I'm so focused on what other people think. And even like you look at the history of KFC and how it came about, you know, that he was willing to go out there and reach out to like 1,000 different businesses and had them say no on his recipe. And at his age, most people would have been like, seriously, dude, just give it up.
Yeah.
There's a great book, 3 Feet from Gold. I don't know if you ever heard of that, by Napoleon Hill's Foundation. It's
it's almost like it's like the modern day version of the Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
So it's like new stories with modern people.
Yeah,
Right.
And there's also a good documentary. It's called 12 Billion Minutes that looks at students from all over the world. And that's one of the things that they say is that America, where they rank the highest, is the confidence, even though they rank the lowest in a lot of different areas compared to different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I loved about being in the Bay Area, and I think that if you've never been to the Bay Area, I think you should check it out because the energy is so different. Even sitting at the airport, you hear people talking about, well, you know, a project that they're working on or a business that they're trying to start, or you talk to people locally and they tell you, oh, I started this business and it failed and I went and tried this. And, you know, it's that culture that's so unique to that area that really is inspiring for me and for a lot of people to realize that failure is part of success and that you have to embrace it. One of the other things that you mentioned also that I loved is that you talk about your children and what you're kind of leaving behind. Right. And for me as a parent, I love being a parent. I think that my son is my greatest teacher that I've ever had. You know, I feel so blessed to have him in my life. And for me is that you teach from what you do, not from what you say. And I think that for everything that you do in your life and everything that you're doing, how you're contributing, how you're always looking to add value. And I know that, you know, I look at some of the videos that you produce on YouTube and that you literally stay there. You should check them out if you're listening out there, where he does stay there 4, 5, 6 hours, just answering questions because he's so passionate about it. But it comes down to that, is that you just want to help transform lives. So I just want to say I truly honor you for that. And I appreciate you, and I'm so grateful for what you bring to this world.
And I just want to add to that, that you're also, just like anybody who's willing to live life on their terms, is a model for other people. Because by giving yourself permission to live your life, you're giving permission to everybody else that observes you. And Chris, you're a really good example of that in so many ways. Obviously, you're an amazing person across the board, but it was your willingness to try and fail, your willingness to leave an extremely high-paying, lucrative career and follow your passion. So regardless if it's somebody who's, you know, at the earlier stages that hears your story about, you know, all the different businesses you tried and failed when you were young, or someone who's later in their career that might be successful that knows that it's slowly killing them, they can look at you as a model of someone who is, you know, life is meant to be more.
Appreciate that. And I love you brought up Colonel Sanders. He actually lived in my hometown of Mississauga in Canada, where I'm from, when he was older. And he lived in this very modest, small house. And he was older when he started this company. I love that because the average age of somebody starting a company in America today is literally 52. And statistically, it's proven that we are all living 26 years longer today than we were in the 1950s. And that means that anybody in this call, I want you to deduct 26 years from your age, because that's really how old you are. If you're 46, you're really 40, or you're really 20. I can't do math. Yeah, but just deduct 26 years. And one more, and thank you very much, both of you, for those comments. I'm very humbled and honored coming from both of you especially. But one thing I want to quickly say is that I think one of the best ways to develop self-confidence in yourself, in addition to saying, I don't care what people think, is to cut off everybody in your life, no matter what, if they're negative. You know, when I was younger, it was strike 6, you're out. Then I got a bit older and it was strike 3, you're out, strike 2. Now it's strike 1, you're out. I could have done the other one, I shouldn't. But yeah, strike 1, you're out. If anybody in your life brings you down or hurts your confidence at all, gone. Cut them off. Cut them off, because one bad apple spoils a whole darn bunch. One negative person in your company, in your department, destroys the culture of your firm. You know what I'm talking about. One person in a group project at school, if you have younger listeners on, destroys, you know, the entire culture of that team. If anybody brings you down, and I mean anybody, one strike, you're out. You'll be better for it. Because
Amen. Great.
And actually, I just want to add this to it. When I went back to college, I was surrounded by the wrong people, you know, after my brother passed away. And at one point, I decided that I was going to cut off everyone from my life that was not in my highest good, and that was not supporting my vision, and that was not feeding me to become a better person. So I used to go to the movies by myself. I used to go to the beach by myself. I used to go eat at restaurants by myself. And my mom would contact me and say, Joel, are you depressed? Are you okay? Why would you go to the beach by yourself? And I finally, at that point in my life, I started to love me.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
I started to be at a place where I was not going to settle anymore to have people around that would bring me down. So I love that advice that you're giving. I do want to end it with one question, and it's a very basic question, but I think, we're full of patterns. Our daily behavior, I think it was like 50% of our daily behaviors is unconscious patterns that we do. So it's almost like living that Groundhog's Day over and over and over again. So I think that success leaves clues, as that statement says. So what are some of the daily patterns or habits that you have that helps you create the success you've created?
Oh, I love that question. Give me 1 second. I can get my iPad. 1 second.
Okay.
All right, this might be hard to kind of share with you here, but so what I do, and I'll show you this in a second, my daily schedule, but I believe that if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. When you got a couple weeks off from work, you can't seem to, God, I have all this time. I didn't go to the gym today. What the hell? I have all this time. So you got to stay busy. When you go through a bad breakup in a relationship or something happens in your life, you got to stay busy always, always, always. And the only way to stay busy is to schedule every single day. And so let me show you how I schedule it every day here. So let me just go here. All right, this is going to be tough to see here. What I do is you can use OneNote for this. And I got the same iPad you got after I saw you at the Tony Robbins conference. Thank you.
It's awesome. It is awesome.
It makes working fun. And anything that makes working fun, whether it's getting a slightly expensive cup of coffee, whatever it is, just do it. Just do it. Whatever makes it fun for you. So here's what I do. And it's going to be a little bit difficult for everybody to see here. But what you can do actually is you can download a copy of the schedule I'm showing you. You go to all lowercase Haroun Ventures, Haroun Ventures.com/schedule. And what I do is I schedule each day, and I have to fill it in. And again, it's going to be tough for you to see this here. But basically what I do is every night before 9 p.m., I fill this in, what I'm going to do the next day. I know it looks messy. I write down what I'm doing at all hours, including this conference call. I schedule time for my kids and my wife every day. I schedule time for exercise every day. I schedule what time I go to bed. I schedule drinking 8 glasses of water, which is 4 of these every day. The top here is, and then at the end of the day at 9 p.m., I score myself. And every violation I make, I take off 5%. And there's silly things like, did I wash my face twice? Because when we're on camera, like if I don't wash my face one day, I get zits everywhere. Like it's brutal, whatever. It is what it is. And then did I get 20,000 steps in, which you and I know means 10,000 steps, right? Yes. Did I put customers first? Did I put God first on a personal level here? I score myself at the end of each day. And before I go to bed, I do tomorrow's schedule, except on weekends. And this helps me out tremendously to get a ton more stuff done every single day. I schedule it. And one thing that gets me into a peak mental state when I wake up every day so I can actually get a good score in these things during the week is I start off every day by lying in bed. Before I get up, I have to thank God for 10 things. And it's usually this. Andrew, Matthew, Dylan, those are my kids, Christine, my wife, my mom, my dad, my brother Jamie, my sisters, Katie, Elizabeth, and my students. Always, every single day, just be grateful. And I say a prayer, it's just me, whatever. But it gets me out of bed in peak mental state. If you appreciate what you have, then you'll always be happy instead of wanting to get stuff you don't have. I love what I have right now. I'm so blessed. Thank you, God, for allowing me to fail earlier in life because I was guided down this path to humbly trying to help other people by teaching online. So,
amen. And I love that answer. Actually, one of the things that I do is that I always lay in bed and I do the same thing, that I just think of all the things that I'm grateful for in my life. And I'm so blessed in so many ways, and then express that. And I do the same thing. I always find that if I write 20 things in my to-do list, I'll do 20. And if I write 4, it will take me the same amount of time to do those 4 than it took me to do the 20.
Love it.
So I am OCD with writing everything that I have to do and we tell everyone, like, we write the things that we have to work on, our playtime, everything.
Yeah, schedule it.
Yep. If you don't schedule it, it's not going to happen because other people's priorities are going to sneak their way into your to-do list. And just as a side note, we don't call it a to-do list. We call it a ta-da list because every time we finish something, we check it off and it's like, ta-da! So it's like a celebration.
Oh, I love it. I love it. No, and I'm the exact same way. The more stuff you schedule, the more you get done. But it's not just scheduling work, it's scheduling everything. I even schedule meals when I eat and everything. I kind of overdo it, but
I love the level of neuroses that goes into it. Like I appreciate that. I am, I love things like, flow charts and like, I love nerding out on things. So I'm obsessive with my planner. If I lost my planner, like I wouldn't know what to do because everything is in it.
I love it. And I love the whole quantified self movement. Let me just share two little technology things. So I had an Apple Watch for a while. I gave it to my kids. I couldn't read it. I got this Fitbit and I got it's a lot cheaper, but it links to this. And this has changed a lot of stuff. The past 2 weeks I've been using, it's been amazing. It's been transformational. This is called a Thermos Smart Lid. And you can get it on Amazon. I'm not affiliated with them. You can get it on Amazon for less than $30. And what it does is there's a little port here, and it links to my watch and to my iPhone as well. And it tracks what time during the day I drink this and how much water I drink. And it doesn't matter, what your attitude is if you don't drink water. It doesn't matter what your diet is for food if you don't drink enough water. It doesn't matter if you get enough sleep if you don't drink enough water. We are 80% water. This thing, dude, it has like doubled my energy. It's just water. That's all it is. But it makes sure that I drink 4 of these every day. And I found that I was only drinking 50% of the water I'm supposed to drink. And one more thing is this I learned. For every cup of coffee you drink, you have to drink 2 times more water, not in addition to the 4 of these per day, meaning glasses per day. And if you just try it, just try to drink a lot more water every single day. Not only will you live longer, you'll have way more energy as well. And you're rewarding the body, which is 80% water. And if it's I'm a nerd, I know, but if it's paying just under $30 for a smart lid thermos, so I can USB and attach to my watch or my phone, whatever, then it's worth it. So
that's so awesome. I am totally getting one.
It's cheaper on Amazon. Yeah.
See, I'm OCD with water, so.
Yeah. He drinks like a fish, but I don't. So I need one really bad. I love that. And obviously, as everyone can tell, the 3 of us could go on literally all day. We could do a 6-hour marathon on all of these different topics. But we do want to give you a chance to just share what it is that you're working on, that you're excited about, the best way that people could follow you, connect to you, learn from you, anything like that you'd like to share.
No, I appreciate that. This has been a lot of fun. So, I teach online on Udemy, but if you're interested in just general Q&A, join me on my weekly YouTube call, please. And just go to search my name on YouTube. It's Chris Haroun, Haroun. Join me on my weekly call every Thursday at 8 a.m. It's free. And then more details about me, you can go to my website, whatever, harounventures.com. And I have a vlog as well. I try to vlog every single day. It's so much fun for me. And I try to impart humbly any wisdom that I've learned from other people every single day. So subscribe to my vlog if you want just daily updates, or just come and join me on Thursdays, please, for the weekly call. It's a lot of fun.
And I highly suggest it. I've actually seen your vlog several times and followed it and things. And I think that you always have a good nugget to share. And I'm a big believer is that you become what you follow in life, whether the books that you expose yourself to, the audios, and just like the information that we're constantly listening to. So if you really want to transform your life, finding different types of information that's going to help that growth process. And I think that you give a lot of value to people. And if you're listening and you want to find different ways to really keep growing and developing, that's a great idea to do so. And we'll also share the links if you're listening with the podcast information. You can click on the links and you'll be able to access his YouTube and his website and things like that as well.
And so I just hope that everyone who has been joining us for this podcast takes away from it that there's opportunity that exists in the world today for you to be able to make money while also fulfilling your purpose. And that the biggest reason to do that is that it's time to start living life on your terms. So I hope that came through loud and clear, and that Chris is a model that you can use to say, look at what he's done with his life. I can do something with mine. And so I just hope that everybody takes that away, because it's the most important message of everything we've talked about here. Live life on your terms.
Follow your heart. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Chris. We really appreciate your time and everything that you've shared today.
Great. Thank you both. This was fun. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, fellow Freedom Junkies, for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to help us grow, please rate and share this podcast. You can also become a member of Freedom Nation. Visit freedomorbustpodcast.com and sign up to receive access to exclusive content and take the 21-day happiness challenge. As you know, we believe that entrepreneurship is the ultimate form of empowerment, which is why we created the Side Hustle Business Startup course for anyone looking to create their own income and take back their power. We offer an exclusive discount for our podcast listeners. Find out more at freedomorbustpodcast.com.